Buckle up, folks. We're diving deep today into the sometimes shady, often exhilarating world of cryptocurrency. We're going to be cracking open Crypto Confidential by Jake Donoghue. It's an insider's look at the industry from like 2020 to 2022. And let me tell you, the blurbs alone paint a pretty wild picture. We're talking tales of fraud, scams, regulatory nightmares, the whole shebang. We'll be digging into Donoghue's own experience launching a, shall we say, interesting gambling token, his encounters with ethically challenged influencers, and the whole crazy world of crypto events.
Donoghue really pulls back the curtain on this industry. He goes beyond the hype, cuts through the jargon, and gives us a raw, unfiltered view. What I find particularly interesting is his point that even with the recent crashes and scandals, crypto remains incredibly unpredictable. I mean, look at Bitcoin. It's already bouncing back.
Right, and that's what makes this deep dive so timely. So Donoghue kicks things off with his personal journey. He starts out skeptical of Bitcoin, like a lot of people. But then his friend makes a killing, a serious fortune. And suddenly, the FOMO kicks in, big time. Eventually, he ditches traditional PR and jumps headfirst into this project, called Portent Protocol. Now, this is where things get, well, a little dicey. It's a crypto gambling platform claiming to be risk-free, which, right off the bat, raises some eyebrows.
Yeah, that risk-free claim is a classic red flag. It kind of sums up a lot of the deceptive tactics we see in this space. The lure of quick riches often masks the very real dangers, especially in an industry that's still largely unregulated. To really get into this, we need to understand how crypto fundraising works.
And the book dives right into that murky world. We're talking token sale rounds, VC dumping, vesting schedules. Basically, these mechanisms allow early investors, like venture capitalists, to buy tokens at dirt cheap prices. Then they dump them on the market, often causing the price to crash, leaving everyday investors holding the bag.
It's practice called VC dumping, and it highlights a huge problem in crypto: transparency, or rather the lack of it, and the need for investor protection. You see, the decentralized nature of crypto, while appealing in some ways, it also makes it incredibly susceptible to manipulation. Donoghue even exposes how auditors, those meant to ensure fairness, can be compromised, having vested interests in the projects they audit.
He actually uses the Ronin Bridge hack as an example. $650 million. Gone, just like that. And then there's the whole thing about bribing crypto journalists. It's shocking how easy it apparently is to pay for positive coverage. We're talking Twitter DMs, negotiating prices for articles. And some journalists won't even write the pieces themselves.
The lack of ethical standards in some parts of the crypto media is alarming. It makes it really hard to find objective information in an industry driven by, well, speculation, to put it mildly. Which brings us to the role of market makers.
Yeah, market makers are supposed to provide liquidity, but Donoghue exposes how some engage in, shall we say, less than ethical practices, pump and dump schemes, for example. They artificially inflate prices, lure in investors, and then boom, they sell up their holdings, leaving everyone else with essentially worthless tokens.
Market manipulation is nothing new, but the lack of regulation in crypto makes it a breeding ground for these schemes. It really underscores the importance of understanding how this market works before you even think about investing. Now, Donoghue also shares some pretty hilarious anecdotes that shed light on the unique culture of this world.
Oh, I love those parts of the book. Like, did you know they use terms like green dildos and red dildos to describe price movements? Green for up, red for down. It's crazy. And then there are projects trying to ride the coattails of, say, Polkadot by using misleading prefixes in their names. It's all about creating hype, regardless of the actual substance.
It's funny, but it also speaks to a deeper issue, this focus on short-term gains over sustainability and ethics. A perfect example of this is the story of Hordes, an early NFT project that, well, completely imploded after being hacked.
Oof, yeah, that was a disaster. A cautionary tale about security, or the lack thereof. Donoghue contrasts this with his team's own struggles to combat bots during the Portent Protocol launch. It's a story that's both clever and, well, ethically ambiguous, to say the least.
So to try and prevent bots from manipulating their launch, they used anti-bot software designed to blacklist suspicious wallets. But get this, during the launch, they accidentally blacklisted their own tax address. Basically, they prevented anyone from selling their token. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot.
Wow, what a mess. It just goes to show, even when you try to control the market, things can backfire spectacularly. And the fallout from that launch was, well, pretty wild. They were accused of pulling a rug pull, basically running off with investor funds. So to counter the negative PR, they started paying influencers to promote the token. They even considered bribing the Launchpad team to manipulate the whitelisting process.
It's just another example of how deception is often seen as an acceptable tactic in this space.
So they ended up with a ton of money, but their reputation was in tatters, which led them to pivot, using their experience to launch a new venture. Moonshot Advisors, an agency helping other projects navigate the treacherous waters of token launches.
It's that entrepreneurial spirit that thrives in crypto. Even amidst chaos, there's always an opportunity to capitalize on the latest trend. And Moonshot Advisors attracted quite a diverse clientele.
Oh, they did everything from tokenizing a mosaic to a decentralized gambling site run by an aristocrat with a gambling problem. And then there's Plowton Mines, a security token project backed by an oil mining company trying to do things by the book.
Houghton Mines is interesting because they were trying to bridge the gap between traditional finance and crypto. Their focus on regulatory compliance shows the struggle to legitimize this industry, which Donoghue explores further through the lens of the NFT craze.
Oh yeah, the NFT craze, that was a wild ride. Remember when Beeple's NFT sold for $69 million at Christie's? Well, Donoghue and his team got caught up in the frenzy too. They landed a deal with an American football team to create an NFT collection, but they quickly realized they were in over their heads.
The NFT bubble, like the ICO craze before it, was all about speculation. Prices were driven by hype and FOMO, completely detached from any real value. It's fascinating to see how that played out.
Absolutely, and we'll dive deeper into that right after a quick break.
It was fascinating to see how that NFT craze played out. You had this dynamic where demand was outstripping supply, leading to these rapid price increases. People were buying up NFTs like crazy, often without really considering their intrinsic worth.
They were scrambling to finish the artwork for this football team's NFT collection. Even thought about hiring like cheap freelancers off Cyber, which kind of tells you something about the quality control.
Yeah, that was a pretty common practice back then, cutting corners to maximize profits, and their launch strategy was just as chaotic.
They decided to list the collection directly on OpenSea, which back then had very limited functionality, so they had to upload each NFT manually, one by one.
Ugh, that sounds like a nightmare. This was before batch minting became the norm.
Imagine having to upload thousands of NFTs individually. But get this, despite the botched launch, the collection sold out almost instantly, made them a boatload of money.
It just goes to show you how unpredictable the NFT market was at its peak. Even with poor planning and execution, you could still strike gold. And of course, NFTs weren't just about collectibles. They quickly spilled over into the gaming world with the rise of GameFi.
Right, and that's where Cage Clash comes in. Like GameFi project run by this wealthy investor who was obsessed with NFTs. They had this crazy office culture, like an anime-themed apartment, champagne showers, the whole 9 yards.
Sounds more like a party than a business.
It kind of was, but their influencer campaign flopped, and the project ultimately went belly up.
Cage Clash is a prime example of how quickly fortunes can change in crypto, even with tons of money and flashy branding. If you don't deliver on your promises, you're doomed. Speaking of shifting gears, what happened after Cage Clash?
Well, they decided to try their hand at crypto media, acquired a failing news site for free, hoping to revive Portland Protocol.
Always looking for new angles, huh? It shows how important controlling the narrative became in this space.
Oh, absolutely. They were constantly chasing the next big thing, like move-to-earn projects where you earn tokens for physical activity, think StepN or Sweatcoin. They even pitched Portland Protocol as a DeFi and NFT project to get a grant from Avalanche.
Talk about jumping on the bandwagon. It highlights the intent and competition in this world. Everyone fighting for attention and funding, often using questionable tactics.
To gain some legitimacy, they decided to throw a lavish crypto conference in London, attracted sponsors, speakers, the whole shebang. Even managed to get that coveted blue check mark on Twitter.
Ah, the blue check mark, a symbol of status in the crypto world. It shows how perception is everything in this space. Projects that look successful often attract more investment regardless of their actual merit. But their quest for respectability hit a snag, didn't it?
It did. They got called out by Reaper Recon. This Twitter account, known for exposing crypto scams and influencer shilling, led to a wave of bad press and investor backlash.
Reaper Recon played a vital role in holding the industry accountable, exposing the shady practices that often went unnoticed by mainstream media. It's a reminder that not everyone in this space is driven by greed. And speaking of events, Donoghue takes us to the Avalanche Summit in Barcelona.
Oh yeah, that was something else. Extravagant spending, bro, culture, everywhere you looked. They were rubbing elbows with crypto whales, attending exclusive parties, and encountering some seriously questionable projects.
The Avalanche Summit epitomized the excess and hype of the crypto bull market. Fortunes made and lost overnight, ethical boundaries blurred. Did anything memorable happen there?
Oh, definitely. They had this weird encounter with a group of women representing perpetual partners. This mysterious crypto fund making bank through arbitrage, basically exploiting price differences across different exchanges.
Perpetual Partners represents a more sophisticated, calculated approach to trading, taking advantage of market inefficiencies and volatility. But while they were thriving, cracks were starting to appear in the broader market.
And then came the Terra Luna collapse in May 2022. It wiped out billions of dollars and left countless investors devastated.
The Terra Luna implosion was a turning point. It exposed the fragility of algorithmic stablecoins and the interconnectedness of the crypto ecosystem. The human cost was immense.
Donoghue does a great job of conveying the impact on individual investors. Some people lost their life savings. He even tells this crazy story about a moonshot employee who made a fortune betting on Luna's decline. It shows how some people will always profit from chaos.
It's a sobering reminder that this market is not a game. The consequences of speculation and manipulation are very real. So what happened after the dust settled from Terra Luna? The aftershocks of Terra Luna were huge. Hedge funds collapsing left and right. Market sentiment, well, it went through the floor. And this is typical crypto. New projects, new trends, they just kept popping up. Some even trying to exploit the instability.
It's like whack-a-mole scam, right?
Exactly. And that brings us to Donoghue's involvement with Paris Pack.
Paris Pack this was.
A project that launched this rebase token, designed to mimic a stablecoin but with a constantly changing supply.
Sounds complicated.
It was, but essentially it was a Ponzi scheme, relying on new investors to prop up the price.
And they were pretty open about their target audience. They called them crypto gremlins. Basically, people easily lured in by get-rich-quick schemes.
It's a predatory tactic, preying on naivete and desperation, raises some serious ethical questions. While all this was going on, Donoghue was still in touch with Rupert, remember from Perpetual Partners?
Oh yeah, the arbitrage king?
Well, he was on a mission to turn his fund into a proper bank, getting investments from traditional institutions, still exploiting those price differences, even considered a multi-million-dollar sponsorship deal with a famous footballer.
So kind of blowing the lines between crypto and traditional finance.
Exactly, a sign of the times, I guess. But then, November 2022, boom, the FTX implosion.
FTX, that was a whole other level of crazy.
It was Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF as he was known, from crypto hero to, well, you know,
The poster child for everything wrong with the industry.
pretty much. And the thing is, FTX operated a lot like a regular bank, but without any of the regulations or safeguards.
They had this sister company, Alameda Research, and they were essentially using FTX customer funds for risky investments and lavish spending.
It was a house of cards waiting to fall.
And when it did, the fallout was massive.
People scrambling to withdraw their funds, but the money was gone. Poof!
Millions of users left with nothing.
The impact on the industry, on individual lives, it was devastating.
Donoghue mentioned some people even tried to bribe FTX employees to get their KYC applications approved, just desperate to get their money back.
It's heartbreaking, honestly. And amidst the chaos, you had figures like Justin Sun and CZ from Binance trying to position themselves as saviors, but really it was all about self-preservation and capitalizing on the disaster.
So where does Donoghue leave us at the end of the book?
He doesn't offer easy answers, but he does ask a crucial question. Will the crypto industry learn from its mistakes? Or are we doomed to repeat this cycle of booms and busts, fraud, and disillusionment?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Before we wrap up, I think it would be helpful to distill some key takeaways from our deep dive into Crypto Confidential.
Great idea. Let's give our listeners something concrete to chew on. So, number one, cryptocurrency is inherently high risk and volatile, full of scams, manipulation, ethical breaches. That's the overarching message of the book.
Number two, crypto fundraising is often shady.
VC bumping, artificially inflated token prices. It's all designed to trap unsuspecting investors.
Number three, auditors and journalists can be compromised.
Briar for favorable coverage, creating a lack of transparency, making it incredibly difficult to separate fact from fiction.
Number four, market makers can manipulate prices.
Pump and dump schemes are rampant, exploiting those who don't understand how the market works.
Number five, launchpads, while promising fair access.
Often exacerbate bot-driven price manipulation, putting regular investors at a disadvantage.
Number six, NFTs are highly speculative assets.
Prices often inflated, artwork frequently outsourced. Despite the hype, they're not a guaranteed path to riches.
Number seven, GameFi and play to earn.
Susceptible to hacks, often with unsustainable tokenomics. It's a model that's yet to prove itself in the long run.
Number eight, those complex rebase tokens.
Often function as elaborate Ponzi schemes, relying on constant new investment to stay afloat.
Number nine, Terra Luna and FTX.
Show the dangers of unregulated stablecoins and centralized exchanges. Highlight the need for better oversight and investor protection.
And finally, number 10, despite all the crashes and scandals.
The crypto market remains volatile and unpredictable, raising questions about its future stability and ethical development.
So there you have it, folks, 10 things to keep in mind. If you're thinking about venturing into the wild world of crypto.
It's a fascinating space, full of potential, but it's crucial to approach it with caution. Do your research, understand the risks, and never let the allure of easy money cloud your judgment.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That wraps up our deep dive into Crypto Confidential. We hope you found it insightful, informative, and maybe even a little bit entertaining. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, happy diving.